Good morning and welcome to this very special roundtable. My name is Puneet Pal Singh. I lead communications for Cisco across Asia Pacific, Japan, and Greater China, and I will be the host for today's session. Firstly, on behalf of the entire Cisco team, thank you to each one of you for taking out time on a Friday morning and spending it with us. We really appreciate your support and this partnership. Sustainability, as you know, has become an increasingly important topic for businesses across the globe and in our part of the world. It is now a boardroom discussion in every company rather than just a nice to have mention in the annual report. For us at Cisco, it has been an area of focus for many, many years, not just in terms of our responsibility as a business on this front, but also on how we can work with our customers and partners on this area and help them accelerate their journeys. So today we are delighted to have Mary Devasaki joining us. She's a Senior Vice President and the Chief Sustainability Officer of Cisco. She's joining us very, very late her time in the US. Mary, thank you so very much. She will be sharing on Cisco's overall sustainability strategy. And then we have Vish Iyer joining us from Singapore. He's a familiar face to many of you on the call. Vish leads our architectures for Asia Pacific, Japan, and Greater China, and is at the forefront of the discussions we are having with customers on how they can leverage the full power of technology to accelerate their sustainability journeys. Now, before I hand it over to Mary, a quick reminder, we will be taking questions at the end of the session. It's a pretty open session, so please feel free to ask. Two ways to ask questions. You can click on the raise your hand emoji button on WebEx and go on, unmute yourself and introduce yourself and the publication you are from and who your question is for, whether it's for Mary or Vish. Or if you would rather put it in the chat in WebEx, please feel free to do so. And I can pick it up on your behalf and ask Mary and Vish the question. And on that note, Mary, over to you.
Thank you so much for the introduction. And thank you all for joining us. You know, today, the world is more connected than ever before, but we're suffering from new forms of disconnection from each other, from our health, and from the health of the planet. In Asia and the Pacific, temperatures have increased faster than the global mean in the last 60 years. 6 of the top 10 countries most affected by disasters are in the region where food systems are disrupted, economies damaged, and societies undermined. We need to limit the temperature rise to no more than 1.5 degrees Celsius to avoid catastrophic changes to the climate. And we're currently at 1.1 degrees Celsius. We must build a sustainable future, one in which we phase out our reliance on fossil fuels, address a century's worth of pollution, provide economic opportunities to communities around the world, and align our activities within the physical boundaries of our Earth. With technology, it's possible to rethink operating and business models in ways that are digital and low carbon. But they can also improve individual well-being and create opportunities for communities. As a global tech leader with more than 83,000 employees across 95 countries, we see our company as having a role to play because we know that technology enables us to rethink how we live, work, and create. If you jump to the next slide. Now, more than ever, there is a business case for sustainability, purpose and profit. It's not an either or, it is both. Businesses today are facing a once-in-a-generation opportunity to make a transition that is both digital and sustainable. Why? Customers, employees, investors, and other critical partners are expecting them to act responsibly toward the planet, and they're scrutinizing their words and actions very closely. Governments are also enacting regulations and requirements around sustainability goal setting and reporting. You can see here that according to an Accenture study, 73% of chief executives believe that becoming a truly sustainable and responsible business is a top priority. And according to an IDC report, 62% of companies in Asia Pacific believe investments in IT are very or extremely important to reach sustainability goals, which is why we're having this conversation with you today. There is a really big opportunity to support innovation around sustainability. What I'd love to do is take a moment and really ground this conversation in some standard sustainability as well as emissions accounting. So what you see in front of you is a framework on how companies identify and report out on greenhouse gas emissions. So let me take you through those. First, you can see that Scope 1 are direct emissions. Those direct emissions are often related to our own company, how we operate our own company. So for example, think about those emissions from operations such as heating or fuels. One of the most important things to remember here is that all companies have different set of responsibilities. It's going to look differently depending on your industry as well. So Scope 1, those are emissions from the operations I mentioned. They're usually owned or controlled by the reporting company. Fuels used on site, natural gas, diesel, fuel consumed by vehicles the company owns, often diesel and gasoline. Scope 2, they're indirect emissions, greenhouse emissions from the generation of purchased or acquired electricity, steam, heating, or cooling, again, consumed by the reporting company. So think about electricity consumed by a company's building. Scope 3 are all other indirect emissions that occur in the entire value chain of the reporting company, including both upstream and downstream emissions. For example, employee business travel and commuting, transportation and distribution of products and supplier emission. You might hear the phrase net zero. That refers to a state in which the greenhouse gas going into the atmosphere are balanced by the removal out of the atmosphere. Companies can achieve net zero through a combination of reducing their greenhouse emissions and neutralizing any remaining greenhouse emissions by removing them or sequestering an equivalent amount from the atmosphere. Which brings us back to today and why we're all here. Let's jump to the next slide. When we think about climate change, this is the crisis of our lifetime, and the progress we make in this decade will be critical for future generations. Tech and innovation have played such a pivotal role in our advancement, but for a long time, this was powered by burning fossil fuels, and that needs to change now. At Cisco, we're embedding sustainability into the way we operate and believe through collaboration, we must build a sustainable future. One in which we phase out our reliance on fossil fuels, we address a century's worth of pollution, provide economic opportunities to communities around the world, and align our activities within the physical boundaries of our planet. That's why we're focusing not just on a sustainable future, but a regenerative one. Regeneration means kind of moving beyond a doing no harm mindset into one in which we build the capacity our social and environmental systems to heal and thrive. We believe that future is possible, and Cisco, we've got a plan to get us there. We call this our Plan for Possible, Cisco's next generation environmental sustainability strategy and action plan. Our first priority is accelerating the transition to clean energy and decarbonization. It's so critical. We need to move away from those fossil fuels to wind, solar, and renewables. Our products, solutions, partnerships all can help accelerate this journey. We have more than 15 years of setting and achieving 5-year greenhouse reduction goals for our own Scope 1 and 2. And we think this experience can help our customers adopt renewables as well. Our second priority, it's about evolving our business from linear to circular. Many of you might have grown up like I did, where we've relied on a linear approach, a make, use it, and throw it out, dispose it, eating into a finite set of material and creating waste. The circular economy, it's an economic model based on recycling, reusing, and reducing the resources used. We're designing out waste and rebuilding products from use one. Our third priority is investing in resilient ecosystems. When we think about this third priority, it's important to recognize that our value chain benefits from really resilient ecosystems, both financially and ecologically. Companies are only as resilient as the ecosystems, communities, economies, and societies they operate in. Investing in our communities to develop technology, capabilities, and talent to be climate resilient will be key. Now, all of this is underpinned by strong governance to uphold our brand integrity and continue to earn the trust of our customers, partners, colleagues, and yourself. Let's jump to the next slide. I want to dig a little bit deeper into that first priority. To power the world with clean energy, the grid requires updated digital infrastructure. And as the world electrifies, we must also reduce the amount of energy used by a connected economy. So Cisco must continue to lead in energy efficiency innovation, connect clean energy, and digitize the grid, collaborate with our customers, partners, and suppliers to accelerate the energy transition. And we're already doing this. A great example, our Bangalore campus, the largest outside our US San Jose headquarters, is primarily powered by renewable sources. 8 buildings on the campus conform to the highest LEED rating. As a result, in India, 77% of our energy was sourced from renewables in our campus, and we achieved 172,000 tons of CO2 savings in FY22 alone. Now, in terms of solutions, some examples of where we're already making impact. Developing the Silicon One chip, it reduces energy consumption while increasing bandwidth. For example, the 8201 router with Silicon One consumes 96% less energy per year while supplying 35% more bandwidth compared to the previous generation without Silicon One chip, the NCS 6008. We've been pioneering universal power over Ethernet to optimize energy use for our smart buildings, and helping our supply chain set their own greenhouse gas reduction goals. Let's jump to the next slide and our second priority. Before I do that, I just want to touch a little bit upon our net zero goal. Cisco has committed to reach net zero across our greenhouse gas emissions by 2040. So our goal to reach net zero greenhouse gas emissions reduction across that entire value chain. Now, our goal includes all 3 scopes of emissions that I talked about, and we're really proud that Cisco's 2040 net zero target is approved by an organization called the Science Based Target Initiative. You might hear it called SBTI under its new net zero standard. SBTI validation requires us to reduce our emission by at least 90%. Now, on the right side, you can see Cisco's most recent emissions breakdown. Scope 3 accounts for the vast majority of our total emissions. Now, as I mentioned, this breakdown is going to look different for every company depending upon the industry. And you can also see why it's so important for us to work with our customers and our suppliers to adopt clean energy to help us reach our net zero goal as well. Let's jump to the next slide. Our second priority. Now, this is the time to transition from an economy that really extracts resources and eventually wastes them to a circular one, which finds new uses for products and their materials. We aim to transform our business from single-use products to ongoing services. So we must adopt business models to extend the value of our products while reducing their environmental impact. Invest in technology incubation at the pace with environmental science, and really champion not just a digital, but a nature positive value chain, really leveraging our global reach. A few examples of how we've already started. We have a goal to incorporate circular design principles into 100% of new products and packaging by 2025. And at the World Economic Forum in 2018, our CEO committed to 100% product return upon request at no cost to our customers. So customers can use our product take-back and return programs to send any product back to us free of charge, and we'll put it to its next best use, whether to remanufacture and reuse or recycle it. We created the Green Pay circular IT payment solution to help customers enter the circular economy. The program eliminates upfront hardware acquisition costs, offers predictable payments for 5 years, and an upfront incentive of 5%. Now, upon the return of the product, which is recovered by Cisco free of charge, customers will receive written confirmation from Cisco that the equipment has entered the circular economy. We have 20 years of Cisco refresh, offering Cisco certified remanufactured equipment available for most of the portfolio, providing a second life to products and reducing waste. Let's jump to the next slide. Our third priority. Our value chain benefits from resilient ecosystems, both financially and ecologically. It's in our shared interest to help humans and nature navigate a changing climate by investing in regenerative technologies, workforces, and nature itself. How we'll do that? It's by enabling communities to adapt to climate realities, really cultivate skills and talent for the new regenerative economy, deploying Cisco technology to protect and restore fragile ecosystems and biodiversity, harness the power of AI, IoT to really advance regenerative models. And we've started. We're integrating urban spaces and nature through our partnership with Canary Wharf, mapping forest floors with Vibrant Planet to decrease wildfires. Let's jump to our last slide around our governance. Now, while we're doing this, we're embedding sustainability into the way we operate to manage risk prudently, enhance trust, uphold our brand integrity, and inspire action. We've created the Cisco Sustainability Council to drive cross-company governance and execution, and will continue to manage governance processes for all external communications, public goals, and claims. We intend to stay aligned with the pace of science while ensuring support from the entire organization. The holistic pursuit of equity and sustainability is the only path forward that allows us to maintain the public's trust in our values. We hope our progress can enable other organizations to succeed as well. Let's jump to the next slide. Many of us have heard of the twin transition and how digital technologies drive sustainability goals. But we also think IT has a dual responsibility, both to manage the footprint of IT as well as its handprint. Various sources put the impact of IT at roughly 2 to 4% of global greenhouse gas emissions, but the potential impact of using IT solutions is so much greater. You can see possibly up to 15% could be the reduction of global greenhouse gas emissions by leveraging technology to change business models and practices. And this is how we're thinking about our portfolio as well, both how we can lower the impact of IT, create use cases and solutions to harness the power of IT in sustainability. With that, I'm thrilled to introduce my colleague, Vish.
Hey, thank you, Mary, for kicking this session off. And as you rightly said, the dual responsibilities of IT. So I think when I talk to CIOs and they talk about sustainability, I think the initial focus is around the IT footprint. And Mary, you touched on a number of topics there, from applying the circular design principles. So as Cisco, I think we've been on this multi-year or multi-decade journey around sustainability. And we have embedded sustainability from the get-go in the way we design products, the way we conceptualize products, the way we ship our products by reducing plastic. We have no paints in our products. We can therefore take our equipment back and retire them to the points that you mentioned. So I think when we go product by product and we talk to IT, we can absolutely help them deliver the 2 to 4% IT footprint part. But that is not the interesting part, because if we have to change and save this planet, as you rightly said, we have to fundamentally rethink how IT is being leveraged in the organization, and then put this handprint that we call in the way in going and analyzing and putting a mirror in each of your customer organizations, which customers are doing, is how are we running data centers today? What is our strategy to make them sustainable? Just to give you a data point, and I'll cover that later, data centers consumes 1% of the global emissions in the world. The buildings constitute around 37%. So I think the key opportunity for all of us is how do we increase and make IT the enabler to leave a bigger handprint, and in this process make the planet more sustainable. And that are the tangible examples that I want to talk about in the context of Asia Pacific here. So if you go and talk and you look at the Asia Pacific geography, I can tell you in every country, from Singapore to Japan, this is a top down initiative. Every country, the prime minister, the president, have made sustainability their top priority. And the reason for that is they all realize, given the energy crisis that we had, the oil inflation that we are now going through, all of them are realizing that they need to have renewable sources of energy. They need to become self sufficient, and they need to make their energy consumption more harmonized. And therefore, this is putting pressure on getting active in every country. Every country has, just like we have in Cisco, chief sustainability officers in the parliament with parliamentary rank. And they are putting a lot of pressure on the business communities to ask the companies to share their decarbonization journey in terms of ESG and report that quarterly. So as Puneet started off, sustainability is no longer a tick in the box. It is hard, and every company is looking at how can they accelerate this journey, because it's right for the planet and it's right for business as well. So I think that's something that we're seeing happen across Asia Pacific. So if you go to the next slide, let's look at the themes where customers and partners are really focused. I think the initial sustainability debate, which was round one, was how can I have more energy efficiency? whether it's in the data centers, whether it's around making my offices more intelligent so that when people don't come to work in the nights, can I switch off the lights? Can I modulate my temperatures in my warehouses depending on the needs of heat and air conditioning? We are seeing grids becoming smarter. We are seeing buildings being retrofitted, new buildings being built. So these are different ramifications of how we are seeing sustainability being embedded. And one of the biggest areas is in the connectivity space. I think we have 3.3 billion people in our part of the world, and their demands for consumption of the internet are only growing daily. So how do we build a more sustainable infrastructure to support this ever growing demand for consumption in our part of the world? So these are the different areas that I'm going to talk about how we are thinking through from an innovation perspective. So let's first get to data centers, because if you ask me, uh, as I stated earlier, centers represent 1% of the electricity used globally. Just look at these two data points. In 2021, globally, there is a consumption requirement of 200 terawatts. But we are now seeing the advent of AI. An average GPU consumes 4 times more power than an Intel CPU. And you can see that the estimate in 2030 is 3,000 terawatts. Now, just think of this in the context of your country. In every country, the data center consumption is going to be one of the biggest sources. So, how can we make them sustainable? How can we do more with less? And that's where Silicon One, that Mary spoke about, really comes to the fore, because with Silicon One, we are now able to change the entire connectivity paradigm where you can get 800 terabits of capacity at more or less the same power consumption that you did for 400 or 100. That is the order of magnitude difference. The other order of magnitude difference is we are redesigned our data center switches, our compute capacity, that what used to take maybe one rack of 48 inches is now we are able to do the same thing with a 1 RU uh, form factor. So this is how we are able to help data centers consume less power, use less space, and even in things like packaging, we are able to bring a lot of innovations so that from a shipping cost perspective, the use of plastics or reducing the use of plastics, increasing the use of fiber, we are really able to change the game in doing our bit to support this growing demand, but to do it in a more sustainable way. So with that, I will now change gears and move to another topic, which is near and dear to us, which is shaping the future of work, which is around making our buildings, which have all been built over the last 20, 30 years, more smarter, more greener. And one of the most fascinating aspects is as we make them smarter and greener, we now have an opportunity to make them more intelligent. We have cameras in those, we have Wi-Fi access points, we have environmental sensors, we have occupancy sensors. Now, what this does is it creates a fantastic experience for the employees when they walk into the office. We know where the spaces are available, we know where we can sit, and based on usage, we can switch on or switch off the power, the air conditioning, the lighting, and thereby save power and make this infrastructure more sustainable. And these are some wonderful examples. This is an example from our office here in Singapore, where we have brought this to life, where we have retrofitted an existing office with all of these capabilities. And this actually creates a compelling experience for the employees. And this is where our CEO, Chuck Robbins, says, is with by making the building smarter, we are making the office a magnet to bring people back and get them to collaborate better. So this is what we are doing to power an inclusive future for all. And let me give you 3 examples from Cisco where we've actually done that. So the first example is obviously near and dear to us. If you go to the next slide, Felicia, is the Singapore office. And we retrofitted this existing office. We changed the entire leveraging power on Ethernet. We have just one infrastructure, which is based on power and Ethernet. So we don't have a separate data cable, a separate power cable that runs on a copper pipe and requires steel. We just have power on Ethernet and powers everything from lighting to air conditioning. So we have that in our Singapore office. We did in our facility in New York and Atlanta attempt to do something pretty significant. Though it's a tenant build out, we redesigned that entire office. And it's one of the most smartest offices. It's covered in the Wall Street. It's covered in various videos. We are happy to send that to you. And one of the biggest benefits of doing that from the get-go and redesigning this office is we've saved 40% energy cost while creating a superior employee experience. And that template is now being leveraged by various companies globally. And Mary spoke about LEED certification. We have the highest levels of LEED certification for those particular offices. And the last one is a very recent development is the office that we've done or the building that's been done in London. Yes, we are using the same sustainability principles that we used in all of these designs. But it's fascinating for us to realize that this particular office today is obviously not only smarter and greener, but by doing that, this has become the most expensive real estate in the whole world. So there is an economic benefit where you're able to monetize sustainable offices with the communities. And these are three examples around the world around how smart buildings are completely transforming the game and changing the game in real estate. And we are beginning to see more and more applications. And now I want to come to another example, which is something that many of you would have traveled through, which is the airport. Okay. Our port is now become a smart technology hub. So this is an example of in Bangalore that we have built this next generation airport, which supports 50 million passengers annually. We went and spoke to the CXO, and he was really looking at it from initially a foot. How can I reduce my IT footprint? And we worked with them in understanding their vision to build a scalable, sustainable digital airport. And we realized that you can actually focus on the handprint. Why do you need 5 parallel networks for airport operations, airlines, security systems, surveillance, power, Ethernet? Why don't we converge it with one infrastructure and have 5 virtual instances of these technologies? With that, we were able to make the airport smarter. We were able to reduce their power needs. We were able to reduce the cooling needs. We were able to apply all of the circular economic principles and provide them a programmable infrastructure. Now, just look at the fascinating sustainability outcomes we have delivered in that airport. We have reduced 50,000 metric tons of carbon emission by doing a very simple thing. There is no boarding pass in Bangalore. There is an app. And with that app, the airport entry to the aircraft gate, we have been able to reduce 10 minutes from the passenger check-in time. And by connecting the OT systems in the airport, from the time the aircraft lands to the way it communicates with the different airline agencies, we've been able to change the turnaround time in runways by 5 minutes. So this is a fascinating example of how IT was not just an enabler, but became a differentiator in providing a sustainable, smarter, greener building to provide greener outcomes for the community. And this template is now being followed by airports after airports. But this is an example where we can use technology to improve the passenger experience, to improve the aircraft turnaround time, and deliver business outcomes in scaling to the needs of our customers by reducing all of the power consumption and the energy efficiency that they need. So I think this is an example of how we are seeing sustainability, digitizing a lot of infrastructure in ways that we had not imagined before. So if you now change gears, we are now seeing the similar examples of sustainability, of smarter, greener, getting applied by leveraging our technology. If you go to the next slide, Felicia. Across industries. whether it's in manufacturing, whether it's in transportation, whether it's in sustainable events, stadiums, which are sports is so near and dear to us in Asia Pacific, and we have a number of them. We are completely changing the spectator experience by leveraging sustainability. We spoke about renewable energy, and therefore how can utilities become powered to make them energy efficient. And we are also beginning to see application of sustainability in agriculture and in providing connectivity to bridging this digital divide. So we're beginning to see this getting embedded in different forms in different industries. Today we covered one example of ports and airports, but if you go to a couple of other examples that we are beginning to see applied in different industries. So if you go to the next slide, Felicia. Uh, These are just some simple examples. So one of the things that we've done in WebEx is now we know when a person is in the office, we know when he's using the technology. So when like these WebEx boards that we have, they can intelligently switch off in the evenings or the night. Similarly, we have this wonderful example of a pharmacy which has to keep a lot of equipment and cold storages across multiple centers. And all that they used was a Meraki dashboard to intelligently understand based on the temperature, how to modulate air conditioning, and therefore by that process saved close to 20% of their energy needs. We are seeing this happen in big offices, big stadiums, where depending on occupancy, we can switch off and switch off the power of our access points and thereby reducing the energy needs in that office. So these are some smart energy management capabilities that help you reduce your footprint that we're very excited to bring to the market. Many of our customers are consuming them in a variety of ways in different industries. So I'll now go to the next slide where I want to kind of start bringing this home. On We spoke about circular design. Our goal, as Mary laid out, is for us to have from procurement to retirement, work through the entire circular design principles by 2025. So, what does that mean? No paint, no plastic, all fiber, and we will take back all of those equipments and we will recycle most of the equipments that we take back on. And I think that is a very significant criteria. And we are beginning to see more and more customers begin to appreciate that they are requiring this from the entire vendor ecosystem. So we are very happy to lead the way on this, and we will continue to execute on circularity and try and deliver this ahead of time. So with that, I'll go to the last slide, which is the point I really want to talk about is we are engaging with CXOs across industries to take this holistic approach to sustainability. And with that approach, we believe that IT has an even bigger role. Obviously, I think they can focus on the handprint, which is to reduce the energy consumption and the carbon emission. But what we are beginning to realize is it the art of the possible. We spoke about examples in buildings, we spoke about data centers, we spoke about airports. We're really rethinking physical infrastructure and figuring out how you can digitize it with a sustainability lens for us to all accelerate our efforts around sustainability. So those were tangible examples that I wanted to leave you with.